StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is products versus business. We're going to explain the difference between these two things. They are not the same thing. I'll tell you how they are different and how they compare and how they could possibly support each other. Before we get into that, I'll remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and weekly motivation, Monday motivation text that are guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you had to do to get these messages is be part of my texting community, which is free to join. Just text me at my number 305-384-6894. And once we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting those texts straight to your phone. Again, once we start sending them again. So if you text me now, you don't get a response because we aren't sending messages right now. But when we are, you'll be getting them. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. We are looking to work with top 1%, maybe 2% at the worst performers, or people who are aiming to be there. If you want to be in the top 1 or 2% of what you do, then you're the type of person who we're looking for. We have a framework based around mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. And it's really about your systems, your strategies, and your ability to work the political game, because politics do matter in business, especially when you're an entrepreneur. And politics are not a negative thing. They're a positive thing when you use them the right way. We will help you do that and help you apply these things in your business directly, the same way that I've applied them in my business. I will show you how to apply it in your specific business, in your industry, even if I've never worked in your industry, because the principles that we apply are universal. It doesn't matter what industry they apply to because they work everywhere. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can see more about what we're doing. Schedule a time to get on the call with us, and we'll talk to you about where you're at, where you want to go, what you feel like might be in your way. And we will let you know if we believe we can help you, you'd be a good fit. We'll tell you how it works and where we go from there. Again, that's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Getting into today's topic, products versus business. We're going to discuss, as I said, the difference between the two, because many people conflate these and get them confused. But being that I am who I am, today I'll make it very simple for you to understand the difference between these and also how they work together to serve each other. So make sure you are paying attention, taking notes, and if you need to, listen to this more than once. Point number one, topic once again is products versus business. First of all, what is a product? A product is a thing that you sell. It's just a thing that you are offering. Someone can give you money in exchange for having it. That is a product. In a business sense, a product is a thing that you offer to the marketplace, and again, people pay for it. So if you create a course, or you offer some form of consulting, or you have a book, these are all products. So I'm putting all of these under the umbrella of products. So I'm not differentiating product and services the same thing. As you sell a service, same way you sell a product. So if you wash cars or cut grass for a living, the act of cutting the grass or the act of washing the car is the product. Or if you sell a book, or you have water bottles, or you sell a universal remote control that people use in their house, that is a form of a product. Anything that you can put out, put a price tag on it, and people give you money, that's a product, okay? Even if it's intangible. So I'm including services, tangible or intangible. So all that's product. Many entrepreneurs start their businesses out by having a product to sell. This is how many of us get started. We have a product, we go out there, we sell it, and it eventually expands into a business. If you're familiar with the TV show Shark Tank, you have heard one of the sharks named Damon John. He talks about how he started the company FUBU. And what he explains is how he would go out to some place in New York. I believe he's either in Queens, it was Queens or Harlem, one of those places. He would go to some place that had a lot of foot traffic in Queens or Harlem, whatever town, I think it was Queens. And he would sell his hats. He had these hats that he was selling. He would stand outside and he would sell them. And that was the foundation of what became his clothing brand FUBU, which I believe he and his partners eventually sold to someone else. The point being, FUBU became a business, and Damon John became a businessman with many businesses under his umbrella by starting out selling a product. That's why I'm giving you that example. So many entrepreneurs start this way, and most of us should want to mature into having a business, not just a product, or just having multiple products. So just because you have multiple products does not necessarily mean that you have a business. And we're going to get to that in a moment. When I first started out, for example, my first product was a training program that I made for basketball players that I sold for $4.99. I started with 2 of those products. Then I expanded to having a whole bunch of products. But no matter how many products I had under that umbrella there of just teaching basketball players how to play basketball, at that point, I mean, we're talking early 2010, around that time. By that time, I still just had a whole bunch of products. It wasn't really at the next step just yet because it was just a product. And again, many people start out by doing just that. They come up with a product or multiple products, they sell them, and then eventually they expand into other things. I'm just trying to think of another example here, but maybe I'll come back to it later. Let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is products versus business. So everyone understands what a product is, right? All right? Many of you out there, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you probably have products. Some of you have books that you have written. Some of you have a course that you're trying to sell, or you want to give a speech and get paid for it. Or you have some type of workshop or consultancy that you would like to offer, or you you put eyelashes on women's faces. All right, those are all forms of a product that you are selling. Now, what can make your product a business, or how can you turn yourself from having a product to having a business? That's actually a better way of saying it, because you don't turn a product into a business necessarily. How can you go from having one to having the other, to actually having both, as a matter of fact? Point number 2, today's topic, once again, products versus business. What is a business? A business is the entirety of the entity that sells your product or multiple products, your service or services, or a combination of both. A business is the entity that sells the products and services. The business is the entity that runs the entire system, while the products are just part of said system. Business is the entity that makes that system work. So the business makes the products sell. It markets the products, it delivers the products, it helps the customers and clients who are buying the products, and hopefully comes up with more products to sell to wanting prospects who are willing to buy. All right, the business is the entity. Okay. Now, what really makes a business, instead of just a collection of products? Because what's the difference? You may be wondering. So what if I had 100 products, but they're just products? But then what makes it a business, Dre? What is that? That's a good question. Let me answer that question for you. The thing that makes it different is when you have a process for getting your products out to the market and making money from them. What makes a business is that you have a process or a system for getting your products from in your brain or in your warehouse out to the people who will buy from them. And that's when you have a business, when there is a system or a process. That's the word or the key words that you can hold on to: system or process. And in this context, they mean the same thing, but people use different terminology. And it doesn't matter how many products you have. Okay, so if you have one product and no system or process for selling it, you do not have a business. If you have 1,000 products and no system or process for selling it, you do not have a business. If you have one product, but there is a system or process for selling it, you have a business. If you have 1,000 products and a system or process for selling it, you have a business. Let me give you an example. One of our sponsors, AG1, you hear me talk about them on this show every day. As of this recording, you know that AG1, the company, they only have one product? They literally have one product. Their product is AG1. All right, you hear it in the ads that you hear on this show every single day. That is the only product that they have. They have no other products. When you get your first month of AG1, you get not only the AG1, you also get a year's supply of vitamin D2, K3, and you get 5 free travel packs of AG1. So I guess technically they offer the D2, K3. I don't even know if you can buy that separately from AG1, but I know that when you get your first order AG1, they give you a year's supply of it. So why would you need to buy it? You got a whole year of it. Anyway, AG1 has one product, and they are a business even with just one product. Now, why? Because AG1 has a process for selling their one product. They have a big business. They have a lot of people who work there, and they do a good job of selling their product. I know this for a fact because I'm in direct communication with the people at AG1. So you could have 10 products, like I did when I first started out, and not really have a business because there's no system, there's no process. You just have a bunch of stuff that is selling. Now, when you put a system and process in place and duplicatable steps, that's when you have a business. That's what makes it a business, because that system, that process, is duplicatable steps. You know what that becomes? That becomes an entity in and of itself. This is the reason why many people who run businesses or people who help people who run businesses talk about things like creating a business entity like an LLC or a corporation or an S corp or some type of, and that is technically in the United States of America legally, your business becomes its own entity. And this is how a business can, or a business owner rather, can protect himself or herself from litigation or liability by making sure that everything you do is under the umbrella of the business entity instead of you, the person, as the entity. So if your name is John Doe and you have a bunch of products to sell and you don't have a business entity, and one of your products causes harm or injury or some type of suffering or, God forbid, a fatality to a customer, they can sue you personally because you are the person who is selling these products. Whereas on the other hand, if you have a business entity like a LLC or an S corp or some other type, then your products can be sold by the business entity. And if something goes wrong the exact same way, you are not held liable because you are not the one who is selling it. You are selling it under the umbrella of the entity of the business. So the business is protecting you personally, is shielding you rather from any personal liability, even though you're the person who created the business, you're the person who created the products, and maybe even you're the person who's out there marketing and selling the products, but the business legally, under paperwork terms, is what's actually making the sale. So the business becomes its own entity. And if you want your business to be its own entity, yes, you can do all that paperwork stuff that I just described, and I didn't describe it really, but you can go do your research and find out about it. Or if you're a member of Work on Your Game University, I can walk you through the process and tell you the pros and cons of each option that you have. Most importantly, though, if you really want to have a business entity, what you need is processes, systems, and duplicatable steps, because those are transferable. See, they're not tethered to just you as a person. You can show someone else your process, your system, and the duplicatable steps, and they can execute. And guess what that means? Now your business could possibly be sold. Now your business actually starts to have value that goes beyond you as a person. Now your business can have other people working in it and doing things and executing, and it doesn't require you to be micromanaging every single step, because the business processes doesn't require you personally. It just requires people to know the process and the systems and the steps, which can be documented. They don't require your personal attention. You see how that separates a business from a product? Good. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is products versus business. Number 3, the system is the separator. I think I just made that clear. The system is what separates a product or a collection of products from having a business. And again, you can have products and a business. And it's when you have a system, that's when you can start to meld them together. So as I touched on in point number 2 a lot, what separates a product from a business is that you have a system for getting your stuff out there. Or what can make your products become part of your business is when you have a system. That usually leads to you creating and selling other products or services, because you see that when you have a duplicatable working thing, you can probably use it in more than one place. All right, why just make one of these? I can make 10. Why make 10? I can make 100. Why make 100? I can make 1,000. And I'm not saying you have to have 1,000 products. Again, AG1 has one product. All right, Apple, Steve Jobs famously cut down their product line from having a bunch of different products to basically, at the time, they cut it down to just 2 things: a personal computer and a workspace computer. They expanded to having things like the phone and the tablet and the watch. But still, Apple has a very narrow product line. They don't have a ton of products. But is Apple a business? Absolutely, they are a business. Do they have a system for selling their stuff? Absolutely, they do. Then you look at a company like Amazon, who has 1 million products, maybe literally 1 million products. They are a business as well. Do they have a process for selling? Absolutely, they do. So understand, it's not about the number of products. It's about, do you have a process and a system for selling your stuff? Now, many people will define the word business in many different ways. If you ask 10 different people what is a business, you're going to get 10 different answers, all right, including my answer, even though mine is coming out of the dictionary. Especially these days when anyone can get on the internet and say pretty much anything they want to say. I want to make it clear as possible to you that the definition of a business is, again, an entity that makes offers in exchange for money. All right, that's what a business is. I'm using common language here. That's not straight out of the dictionary, but it's close enough. A business has things that it is selling, products or services, in exchange for money in the open marketplace. That's what a business is. A product is just one of the elements of those offerings. Okay? So once you find a successful way to sell a product, you can utilize that same process and sell more products. You can make and sell more products. And by the way, when you have a successful process for selling a product, you can apply that process to any product and any business, because the process that makes it work is universal. It works everywhere. So this is why learning how to sell is a universal, future-proofed skill, because it will always be valuable, it will always be useful, and no matter where you take it, it will produce money. It applies everywhere. So assuming that you have more things that you can offer to the marketplace besides the one product that you offer, All right, you can again expand your product line or your offerings line based on your understanding of principles of businesses and products and selling and marketing, copywriting and communication and building a brand and customer relationships and all of those things and all these things that I coach people on in the university. If this is exactly what you need, I coach people on this stuff every single day because these principles are universal. Again, they apply across the board, which is why I have a bunch of people who are members of our university who are not in industries from which I come. Y'all know where I come from. I come from playing sports, being on social media, writing books, coaching, podcasting, making courses, and a bunch of people in Work on Your Game University don't do any of that stuff. Yet I can still help them. Why? Because the principles are universal. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? Good. So assuming that you have more things to offer, again, you can expand once you understand the principles. The challenge for many people is that they don't understand the principles, and this is why they can't expand. So in my experience, almost everyone, once they have this understanding or they are aligned with someone who does have this understanding, they usually expand, because why would you not? Or why would you stick yourself with just one way of making money when you can multiply and have 2, 3, 10, or 30 ways? The only limitation most of you have is your own imagination and insight into what your customers may want or your future customers may want, in addition to what I already said, the fact that you need to understand the principles of how things work so that you can duplicate your efforts and get higher return on investment by simple multiplication and duplication. One other thing, your willingness and ability to implement your ideas. That matters too. Because if you don't have the willingness or ability to implement the ideas that you come up with, well, it doesn't really matter that you have ideas if you don't do anything with them. So you have to actually put them to good use. But all that said, let's recap today's class, which is products versus business. And there's a difference between these two. They can work together, but you just have to understand how and why they do. Number one, a product is simply a thing that you sell. In a business sense, you're offering it to the marketplace in exchange for money. And again, we can consider your services, tangible, intangible, all of those we'll call products. Now, how do you get from having a product or a bunch of products to actually having a business? Good question. Point number two, a business is the entirety of the entity that sells your stuff. And the business runs the entire system. The products are just part of the system. And the main thing that makes a business is that you have a process and a system and duplicatable steps for getting your stuff out into the marketplace, from ideation to actually selling and collecting the money. When you have a whole process and a system for this, that's when you go to actually having a business. Challenge for many people is that they have no process or system for what they're doing. There are no duplicatable steps. They basically figure it out as they go along. Good news is, if you're smart enough, talented enough, you have a good enough market and a good enough product, you can succeed in business and make money without any process or any system. But eventually you're going to run into a problem. Like, I know from personal experience, I was talented enough, good enough, I had a good enough market and a good enough product to make money selling my products before I actually had a business, because I had no process. There was no rhyme or reason to what I was doing. Actually, there was a rhyme and reason, but there was no process, no system. Let's say that. Once I got a process and a system, then I was able to do it in a more duplicated way. And I was able to expand into selling other things in other areas to other people because I understood the principles. And again, that requires a depth of knowledge or access to someone who has a depth of knowledge. And number three, the system is the separator. The system is what makes all the difference. What separates a product or having a product from having a business is that there is some type of system in place that you know exactly what's happening, how it works, and you can do it over and over and over and over again on call. That's when you have a business. And again, a business entity is a legal thing, a real thing in the United States of America that can, again, separate you personally from liability from the business itself, even such that your business can be transferred, your business can be owned by someone else. You can sell and you can buy your business. I mean, someone else can buy your business. You can sell your business when it is an entity in and of itself. This is why businesses have these setups. The government has created these setups where a business can be its own entity, and you got to have these systems and processes in place to make your business an entity in a way that matters and makes sense to the point that you may want to at some point transfer it to someone other than yourself, even if it's your kids, because everything can't be in your head. Because if it's in your head and you die, well, then there goes the business. But all that said, make sure you text me so you're in my community. My number is down below in the description. Also, Work on Your Game University. It's a place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach. If you're a top performer or plan on becoming one, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Links down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all